G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. Today we're going to be previewing round 7, going through some captains, going through some trade targets, answering questions, all the while we have some beers. Let's go!
Just done it from nowhere. Hoisted the goal from inside the 10. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty. Petty. Petrarca. Oh, wow. How good is that? The legend becomes immortal.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy, joined on a Friday afternoon with Luke Rojo. Mate, how are you?
Can we just have a fucking week where we don't have players out?
Red dots! We love them!
What is going on? I'm not a Took owner, but my heart bleeds for them. And then, I mean, to be fair, at least LDU wasn't 2 minutes before the game this week.
Well, at least they've named it up, hey, haven't they? What
is going on?
Yeah, so, let's just run through them. We've had, after round 1, you had the Josh Kelly, the Tristan Jerry. Then we've had...
people had Stewart in that
we
week
had
as well.
Stewart that week. I think, what did we have after that?
Then
LDU laid out, Wits, Bailey Smith.
Injuries. Everything's happening.
It seems to be on a weekly basis at this point. The Took Miller now. But, look... We've got to try and soldier on. Crisis creates opportunity, and
it's just killer. That's what people tell themselves to comfort themselves. It's a straight lie.
Stop them from just crying.
Well, I mean, we were talking last night, and I was sitting there having a look at my trades for the week. And,
we've got you to blame for this.
Well, I said, oh, Mitch, I kind of don't know what to do with my trades.
There's no obvious trades.
I'm a bit up in the air. I said, I kind of like it when there's a forced trade. It's easier. And Mitch just said... Guys, the fantasy gods smite you down, then we found LDU today, and obviously people got took. So it's an absolute shambles.
And Rory Laird is apparently under an injury cloud as well.
Well, we can only hope. Oh no, I can't say that.
And the one guy who didn't get injured, who was supposed to be out, Clayton Oliver, of course, he gets through, scores a ton still. All those lucky owners that have him.
The week he was sickly, he had 17-day break to bloody recover from it with the Anzac Day game.
Bloody hell, okay. Some people have it nice, don't they? But at least with the LDU thing, this explains why he was doing so shit the last couple of weeks. Because, look, he was a completely different player the first couple of games. Coming up against, the first 2 games, he was averaging like 115. Looked to be an absolute rip-up pick. We were watching him in awe and saying, this guy's a gun. Even the game against Carlton, I think, was the game after he came back. He came out on fire, and then they started tagging him. Got himself to a 91, but still looked like the guy that we saw the first 2 weeks. But these last 2 weeks, just looked the shadow of himself.
Looked like a different player.
It kind of explains that. Now, the injury is, they've just named it as a heel injury. I don't actually think we've got a proper...
I hope it's quick to heal.
Diagnosis. Hope to heal the heel.
Mine was better. You just piggybacked on me.
No, I was just explaining it for the slow people out there.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Appreciate that.
Yes. I don't know how long he's going to be out for, is the question. So
it's a trade, isn't it?
It's a trade. I think it's a guy that, you've kind of been looking for excuses to trade.
If he pumped out like 2 120s in the previous weeks, then you'd be like, okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah, let's just get a bit more information. But I think this is a good chance to trade off a guy, and his break-even's pretty high as well. So I'm going to be looking to trade. He's not someone that I want to keep in my team. The question is now, like, a lot of people with Took, the advice has been to trade down to someone a bit cheaper, use that cash to get someone up to another guy. So if you can go like a Took down to Will Day, and then use that money to get a Mackenzie up to like a Butters or something like that, that's a win. Tick that off. The unfortunate thing is LDU is just that little bit not as expensive as a Took Miller. He's like 50k cheaper. So when I'm looking at my team in particular, I don't have the money to do that. Like if I go LDU to Will Day, I can't even get up to a Rochelle or anything like that. I can only go as high as like a JJ. And I don't feel like that's much of a win.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as good as the other option, does it? So
at least I know for my team, this injury, this out, has caused me to go stuff it. I'm just going to go sideways to a cheap Will Day, cash in with the value, downgrade and get a Chincotta, use this opportunity to at least fix up some red dots, get some cash gen going. I'm going to bank a whole lot of money, and hopefully next week I can do an upgrade from, again, another fix-up of a red dot and still have enough money to get an upgrade. That's the way I'm choosing to see it, because in amongst all this premium injuries, we've also had a lot of rookie red dots. So it's red dot fever at the moment. So we've got to try and figure our way through it as best we can.
It has been. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about some players, and I think we're starting off with our trade targets, aren't we? So
yeah. So starting with our trade targets in the crosshairs, we'll start with some downgrade targets, some cash cows.
Yes.
I think the number one player, pretty much head and shoulders above everyone else, is Alex Chincotta, the bread.
The bread. We should have bought a sandwich or something to honour his first
You nearly did, but it's...
Well, actually, yeah. I hope nobody minds, but I've just got a little afternoon snack that I didn't finish off before, so I'll finish that off.
Yeah, you should have brought bread, mate, bit of sandwich.
Yeah, what are these? These are they saladas or cicadas or...
Cicadas.
Cicadas an insect.
Weirdo,
whatever
mate.
this is, yeah. So
I think the bread, he's the number one, pretty much head and shoulders. I really like the fact that we saw Doherty has been named back. That, by the way, the Carlton medical staff, bloody wizards over there.
Oh, no, they're just overestimating, so they look really good.
Oh yeah, he'll be back in 6 to 8 weeks. 2 weeks later, miraculous recovery.
You guys are unbelievable.
Oh my god, I hate it. Anyway, that's another rant for another time. But with him back and Adam Sard returning to the side, and he is still named, that gives me more confidence.
It would be hard not to reward that game, but there's also a scenario where I can see it's like, okay, we've got to reward him for this game, but
then maybe. As soon as he back
out, I hope that's not the case.
I will be interested to see if someone like a Cowan is a sub, and potentially he if they both just fuck each other up, and he comes in and takes him off, hopefully. And their break evens are both ruined. But I think Chincotta is the guy that we want. He's a mature age guy, scores really well, held his spot with 2 guns coming back into the side. So I think he's number one. Number 2 and 3, I also don't mind Seamus Mitchell and Ryan Angwin. Angwin. Penguin. Seamus Mitchell held his spot, and I think actually Scrimshaw was dropped from the side ahead of him, which I thought was interesting.
That's positive for Seamus.
So Weddle comes into the side, so I think he's moving further away from the edge of that team.
Yeah.
So I think that he's a good target.
He is a little bit more expensive.
$280K now.
Disclaimer. That makes it... Yeah, it does make it a little bit harder, doesn't it? Especially if you...
If only I'd went him instead of Roberts last week. Oh, anyway.
Well, if only. But it just makes it difficult, especially if you're looking to just clear a red dot, and even a red dot that could be actually valued less than Seamus, and you actually having to pay up. But
it's a hard pill to swallow.
That's the way it goes.
I think Angwin's okay as well. So he's a guy that's in that Giants team. They've got a few injuries, long-term injuries as well. So I think his role in the side is at least looking pretty safe for now.
Yeah.
He scored, I think, a 60 or something last week. So that should be pretty decent. So I think those are the 3 rookies we're looking at. Some left field options that you might, say you've got a couple of these guys already. But I think most people can use those 3.
Yeah.
Angus Sheldrick got named $200K for the Swans. Sam Sturt and Matthew Johnson both for the Freo Dockers. I think that they could be around for a little while, but I'd probably be looking at those maybe guys for next week, seeing if they perform really well. Yep. Those top 3 are my downgrade targets of choice.
Keep an eye on those guys. We've got a few people getting around us in the comments, which is good. I think I saw somebody's having a beer with us today, which is good. So
cheers, mate.
If you want to have
Happy Friday.
Have a beverage of your choice with us.
Let us know what you guys are. What's your beverage of choice, everyone who's listening along live? What's your beer of weapon?
The AFL Fantasy Beer Connoisseur Podcast.
Welcome. Well, we've got to switch it up every now and again.
We do. So thank you for everyone who's having a listen to Sabo, and just keep going in the comment section. We'll hopefully get around to answering a few questions later on.
We'll answer some comments later. Let's talk about upgrade targets. I've got defenders first. There's 2 guys I think that are head and shoulders. So number 1, Tom Stewart.
Yep.
Number 2, Will Day. And then I've got...
I've just seen what you put. He's put Daylight as number 3. So
Daylight.
I think that's
these 2 are well ahead of everyone. So those are the top 2. Tom Stewart, Will Day, Daylight. If you have got both already, you could have a little bit of a shop around with a Dan Houston or a Whitfield. Whitfield, I think, has got the numbers in the past. Houston's got the good matchup this week.
And a ceiling as well.
A little bit of a ceiling, yeah. He can be up and down. So,
but if you don't have Dale Stewart, I'd be going there. And if you have both Dale Stewart, I'm in this situation. I'm probably looking to go another line.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah, so I think that's why I've got the daylight ranked third there.
Yes, that was clever by you, mate.
Defenders.
You've even italicised it, which is good.
Yeah, just to make sure we don't confuse it with an actual player called Daylight.
No, I think that's good.
There is a Will Day, so Daylight could be.
Yeah, it's like yeah, okay.
Midfielders, the mids are tough right now. I can't see any really top level value options at the moment. There might be some on the horizon, but I think we're still waiting on a few of those guys like a Brayshaw, Callum Mills, even a Jack Steele and stuff starting to come down in price. So at the moment, I do think that the 2 or 3 guys I like the look of Bont, Josh Kelly, Sam Walsh. I think they're all good options, all priced pretty similarly. So if you have your own preference on those 3, I think you can go for it. I do like Bont's matchup this week and Walsh's matchup this week.
Are you personally, are you willing to pay for those guys that you don't really see as value? Because I know you love looking for value, and that's kind of my question to you is, even though you've got those as your top 3, are those guys that you would genuinely look at?
I think, no. Not this season especially, because of the cash crisis that I think a lot of teams are facing right now with the amount of red dots that I suspect are in a lot of teams. Even though a lot of people might be able to get to those kind of players, if, for example, you don't have a Will Day, or you don't have a Butters, or you don't have a Stewart, I would still be going like an LDU or a Touk Miller to one of those types, because I think they're 10 points unders what they're going to do in the end. You're going to bank a lot of cash, and then, this is my plan at least, next week when you go to do your upgrade, you'll be able to do an upgrade, but you'll be able to do it by doing like Lockie Cowan down instead of doing like a Jinby down. So you'll be able to get rid of one of those worst rookies and still get your upgrade. And I think the importance of turning over that cash will benefit teams in the long run. It might hurt a little bit now, but I think that the cash is starting to become more and more of a problem with this sub rule this year. Yeah,
I definitely noticed, a lot of stuff getting around on Twitter. A player like Took goes down, and people say, "Oh, okay, Took goes down. I can get to Oliver. I can get to the highest valued players," but you have to. That's the instant reward. That's the thing that you want to do because the points are there. But you talk about, it's the opportunity cost that you lose on the other end. So the money that you save by going to the value option ends up helping you in the long run. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. Don't necessarily go for that instant reward if you don't see that there's actual value to be had there.
And the argument I hear a lot about it is okay, but you trade in Touk because he's a captain option, or he's a gun midfielder and that sort of stuff. But in the way I see it, a lot of us have Tim English, a lot of us have Nick Dacos or Tim Taranto.
And we have loop options too.
And we've got loop options coming out of our ears at the moment. So those players are quite popular, and I looking at my big boys, which we're going to go through later. They're still the top of the list of those sort of guys. So most of us should have decent captain options still, even if our midfield is looking a bit bare. I know mine is really looking quite poor at the moment.
Mine's looking like a 2-side, mate.
Yeah. So I think that the captain option argument doesn't hold as much weight to me because those other lines are doing their job. Dacos, English, Taranto, all haven't dropped below a ton this season, and none of them are in the midfield. So I think that you can cover that off with those kind of players.
Yeah, it's a fair call. Who have we got in the forwards?
Forward line, I've got 2 guys that I do really like. Zach Butters, number 1. I traded him last week. I think you did as well. So we still really like him. I think he's going to go big tonight. And I am definitely coming around on this second player, Josh Rochelle, who I think the midfield time is real. And especially if a Rory Laird doesn't get up this week. I know he's got a tough matchup against Collingwood, but I think Rochelle's second-year breakout, I think that we've all missed him, but I actually still think it's not even too late. You're just chewing over there.
It's really loud.
We're just doing some ASMR over here with you chewing on your sanger. Mukbang.
Mukbang into you guys.
Oh gosh, here we go.
I didn't have much to eat today. Sorry.
I don't even know if people can hear you saying that right now. But all right, moving on. So Josh Rochelle I think is a decent option, and I've got JJ written here, but I think most of us can do better than getting a JJ this week. So, but he is there if you are personally super bullish. That's where I would have him.
We did say on JJ when we were watching that Bulldogs game is that although the score wasn't what people had hoped it was, we did say
the roll was good.
The roll was solid, and then there's the stat being that's been getting around this week is the fact that he was actually the highest of the Bulldogs scorers in terms of their defenders.
Yeah, in that game.
So, it just It just means that I don't necessarily think it's the worst move.
No, I don't think it's the worst move.
Yeah.
I just don't personally know if it's the best move because he is going to be a guy that you're going to have to trade on later. I don't see him being like a 90-plus averaging player.
I think those guys can sometimes bridge the gap, but I know I haven't played for too many years, but like in the situation we're in, I keep coming back to it with you. I think these rookies are getting to the point where they're not going to fatten any further, and there's suddenly this big gap to bridge, and we're not seeing value. Like, can these guys be the guys that bridge the gap if you pick the right one?
Yeah, let's say if you have already a Will Day, you have a Zach Butters, you've got a Tom Stewart. Look, I still think that I'd still be trying to get to a Josh Rochelli. Okay. I'd be trying to get to a Rochelli first. Yeah. So if you had those four, then you could go with a JJ in that instance. But I don't think that's going to be many teams. Not many teams have Rochelli. And very few teams, I'd imagine, would have all four. So I think those are still like those guys that are achievable to get to. But yeah, in terms of like getting to the big dogs, then he could be that bridging option to do that. So overall rankings, if we put them all together, I still think Tom Stewart is number one for me just because now that we've lost Tuke, that round 13 bye, he's just almost going to be a must-have while he's at this value. Will Day second. I think his break-even is also super low, so if you don't get him this week, he's going to jump up in price. Yeah. Zach Butters, number 3 for me. Rochelli, number 4. So those are my 4 value options that I think we all should be targeting. And then number 5, I just kind of got my top mid option, which is Bont. But he could really be Bont, Kelly, Walsh, whichever one of those guys you prefer. I think they're all, flip a coin kind of options.
Now, something that I think we sometimes sort of neglect to talk about a little bit, but is worthwhile discussing, is those red dot rookie loop options, because it's something that I haven't still fully got my head around it, and it's one of those things every week.
It trips up even the most seasoned fantasy players.
Each week, I think, how am I going to stuff this up? I know I'm going to stuff this up at some point during the season, and it's just how is it going to go? So you're going to talk to us a little bit about some red dot rookies and
so I chucked this on the run sheet today because it just sort of jogged my thoughts last week when we had Alwyn Davey Jr., who was a guy that a lot of people were relying on as like that loop option for their captaincies or to loop on a score onto their field and things like that. So just want to talk about strategy on options to loop rookie scores because a lot of us are fielding more rookies than we want to at this time of year. Yeah. We've got some red dots. So the strategy in terms of getting players on the field. So the timing of when these red dot rookies, when they play, is super important to be across of. So a player like someone like a Matt Roberts, who a lot of us traded into last week, the unfortunate thing for him is that he plays like the third game, which is actually like 10 or 20 minutes after the second game on the Saturday.
Or he doesn't play.
He doesn't play,
which is the thing we want.
His team
he doesn't
plays.
Play the third game.
So you will only be able to loop the Friday night game. So in that instance, you could loop someone like a Philippoussis. So if you have the E on Philippoussis and you like his score, you can then move Matt Roberts onto the field, take that score. Yep. So if you have him, that might be an option. But other than that, Matt Roberts' red dot is pretty useless this week. The West Coast boys, so Campbell Chesser, Noah Long, are popular options in a lot of teams. Yep. So West Coast plays on the Saturday night, which is very handy for us. So other rookies like the Hawthorn guys, so people rolling with the Seamus Mitchell or Fergus Green. You can loop those guys, have a look, and then if you like their score, you can put those other guys on field as well. Yeah. I don't know how many people are rolling around with Miller Bergman, but he's in the same situation as those West Coast guys, the Saturday night game as well.
Can I digress and cut you off really quick, Mitch? Somebody's donated a little bit of coin to us here, which is very kind of Bindi. So we might just pause and answer this question, I reckon. Yeah. So we've got Heaney's priced at 677, which is 78, with last 3 average of 94. He's averaged 89 last season, 90 post-buy, and has a break even of 58.
Yes, that's good. Yes, I have seen a little bit of Heaney love going around on Twitter recently.
And Heaney was an interesting one last year because he was frustrating because I think everybody wanted him to take that next step and knows that if he played midfield time, he's capable of being a fantasy gun. Yeah. But then when you sat back and you looked at it at the end of the season, he wasn't far off being a top 6. He might have even snuck into being a top 640. He was there or thereabouts.
Once the DPPs came out for this year, I think he was in that top 6.
Which makes him, over the course of the season, not the worst pick in the world. So what are your thoughts?
So, look, he is value in terms of what he's going to produce on the season. the trouble with a player like Heaney is he's playing a forward position. He's getting no midfield time.
Yeah.
So he relies on, I think, a little bit more on the performance of the team. We have already seen this season, he's popped a score in round 3 that he scored 28, and that was in 84% game time.
That's hard to swallow.
That's pretty stinky. Now, that's not to say that he's going to do that, but he has the capability of just going missing in games because the game flow doesn't suit him. So I personally prefer to shop on those guys who have that midfield time, like Rochelle, who's very close to his price.
So how is Rochelle a little bit more?
Yeah, Rochelle is like 690.
too.
Yeah,
okay,
so you're paying an extra 15,000.
Yeah.
To get to him, and I think that's probably where I would rather go, just because you're guaranteed that involvement in the game.
I'd probably agree with that too. And part of the reason Adelaide have been so good and look so promising this year is I think his injection into the midfield. So from a footy perspective, the Adelaide coaching staff is not changing anything that they're doing with Josh Rochelle. He's been fantastic this year, and I think that he's going to continue in that role. So that's kind of my thoughts on Heaney.
If we look on Heaney's run as well, so he's coming up against Giants at the SCG. That could be a decent run, decent game. But next week he's got Collingwood at the MCG, so that's a tough matchup.
Yep.
A really good side there. Then he comes up against Freo, and despite Freo being down this year, they are renowned for being a good defensive side as well. And then he comes up against North. So probably 2 good matchups, 2 tougher matchups in my opinion. It's not enough for me to get over the line for a player that needs to be kicking, a couple of goals to go really big in his fantasy scoring. So
yeah, it's one of those ones. But like as you often say, if you like it and you've done your research and you've done the digging,
back your gut if you're really into it. But that's just my view.
Yeah, certainly don't listen.
Thank you,
to me
Bindi,
anyway.
for the tip there. Very generous of you.
Yeah, appreciate that. And if at this point, if there's anyone listening along who hasn't subscribed yet, please consider doing so.
Hit that subscribe button.
Low. Okay, we were talking.
We're talking red dots.
We were. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Well, I think we got through most of the main ones here. The only other one I was going to touch on is Lockie Cowan is named emergency. Again, with the emergency, we don't know if they're going to be subbed until an hour before, so I wouldn't be relying on him as a loop option. And Alvin Davey, we'll find out in 8 minutes whether or not he's a red dot or if he's going to be on that extended sort of emergency side of things. I have a little bit of a worry that he will be dropped, but just be across who's actually dropped, who's in the extended squad / emergency, and when you can safely loop your scores. So just make sure you're across at the times there.
Yeah, appreciate it. Brendan has just sent us a $10 bill. His shout, he reckons.
No questions, he reckons. Just love the pod. Well, thank you, Brendan.
Much appreciated, Brendan. Hope you're having a beer with us, and keep engaging with the content if you're enjoying
it.
Much appreciated.
All right, let's. Should we go through some big boys?
Oh, wait. Let me just cue up the big boys.
All right, I think I'm going to swap the things. I was going to do some basketball music in a second.
Tell me when you're ready, mates.
I'm ready.
That's one of my favourites, the big boys, eh?
Yeah, I gotta love it, and I love the fact that it's come from a fan suggestion as well.
Yeah.
So we've actually got a few Kung Fu Casey soundbite suggestions as well, which I'll go through before our next podcast. Yeah. But getting into the big boys.
Tell me about your big boys, Mitch.
Mate, there's some good options this week. I really like my top 5.
We've got a few of them, which is unusual.
Yeah, I really like the top 5 this week. I think it's not like it's hard to order them because they're all good options. So number 1, I think just the number 1 player in fantasy, I think this year, at least my projections are Tim English against Hawthorn, Ned Reeves.
That's got to be a bloodbath.
That's got to be a bloodbath. He hasn't gone under 110 this entire season, and he's come up against all the hard rucks already.
Literally, the only thing, and I'm holding on to wood right now, but literally the only thing that could stop that man is an injury.
Why would you even?
No, this table's wooden and I'm hanging on tight, but
my God,
it's more my praise. I don't think there's anything stopping this guy.
He's a different animal. He's just a class above everyone else. So he is number 1 for me. Plays on 4:35 Saturday, so you could even VC him if you wanted to.
There's a couple of rucks this week.
There are. Number 2, I've still got Clayton Oliver going up against North Melbourne. Got to give the man respect. He scores 100 and what did he score? 104 when he was sick.
He gets 40 touches for fun, eh?
So against North, that's just going to be a smashing at the MCG. Number 3 is the other ruckman. I made a late change this afternoon. Can't really decide between this guy and the next 2 players. Rowan Marshall against Port Adelaide tonight.
It's not a bad option.
up
No
against
Lycett?
Teakle.
Yeah.
No Lycett. Bailey Williams from West Coast actually tonned up against Teakle last round.
No, he didn't.
He did. He got 101. So
sorry.
Rowan Marshall.
Marshall subbed at 3/4 time, mate. Watch out.
Well,
watch out.
The hope is that the game will be tight. Porter actually decent. They're a good side.
Yeah.
So you got subbed out against the Suns when they were
Kilda-
flogging them.
St Kilda are a good side this
They
year.
are
eh?
a good side.
They're a good side.
They are a good side, but I don't think it'll be. I mean, I'm hoping it won't be a smashing. So, look, when I saw that stat, he was number 5. He's jumped up to number 3 for me, so he will be my VC tonight.
Can I quickly circle back to number 2, Clayton Oliver, and just sort of throw out a question there?
Yeah.
Do you ever think that there's a chance when a team, they come up against a team like North Melbourne, do you ever think there's a chance with those guns that they
Just takes the foot off the gas?
Yeah, and they just kind of...
I think Clary wants those votes.
He seems like he just wants to touch the footy all the time.
I think he wants that
Doesn't he?
Brownlow, and I think that it's just noticeable the way he finishes games even when it's in the bag, where he finishes games even if they're losing. Like when they were going up against Essendon, like they were not going to win that game.
Yeah.
20 touches in the last quarter. Like
Yeah, he loves it.
I think Clayton Oliver, like I do see what you're saying, and I do take that into account sometimes, but I just think that Clayton Oliver's a different beast this year.
No LDU as well. It's just going to be
they're really, North are struggling right now.
Okay,
so
sorry to digress.
That's all right. Number 4, Timmy Taranto. He's part of that big 4 that hasn't dropped below 100 yet, and he's got a very nice matchup against Gold Coast. At Marvel, Richmond hates Marvel. Dimmer hates Marvel.
Dimmer's always talking about Marvel.
I don't know if that's going to seep into the team's attitude. So that's what pushed, that combined with the Bailey Williams ton last week, pushed Rowan Marshall ahead of him for me. And Nick Dacos is number 5. So those are my big 5. Now, I am perennially or weekly scared of putting...
What's perennially mean?
I don't know, like always. Or like
Does it?
Consistently? I don't know. Google it. But Nick Dacos, I'm just scared every week that he's going to get tagged. So he still plays the last game of the round. So I am taking some of those other big dogs who have not dropped below a ton ahead of him. But, he's got big numbers against Adelaide. On a side note, I don't know. I know people bring up like scores against the side in the past or scores at a ground in the past. I don't put too much stock in that. Like
scores at a ground, I might put more stock in.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Well, teams change, strategies change. So if you take, like, let's say, for example, you go, hey, he scores really well against St Kilda.
Yeah.
Well,
St Kilda,
yeah. But scores at a ground are different because if you think about it, AFL is one of those unique sports where the dimensions of the field changes.
I get that between maybe a GMHBA versus like an MCG. But
I tell you, it's different. It sounds weird, but it's different, especially playing at your home ground versus playing away.
I can see that.
Well.
I can see home versus away.
It's different.
It
sounds weird, but I think most people would tell you. And the weirdest thing too is if you've had a good game at a ground before, you
walk in there.
Chest puffed out. Look how good I am.
Adelaide Oval this weekend. Yeah, I'm getting 40.
I'm ready to go. Let me just go have a little walk on the ground.
I'm still scared to captain Dacos. I would love him as a VC option, but for me, he sits at number 5. So I think most people have one of those top 5, but let's go through the last 5 here. Number 6, I've got Sam Walsh against West Coast. Looks like a beast. They should beat up on them.
Yeah.
Bont against Hawthorn. Went huge last week. Hawthorn, easy matchup. No Libba there as well, so he's going to be feasting in the midfield.
Look what Sean's just said. If he gets injured, I'll be seeing you soon. I think that's fair enough. I think I'd submit to that.
Oh, Bindi also has just let us know that Kennedy will be the sub for Carlton. So, okay.
Interesting. And another little donation.
Feel free to then...
hang on to your money, Bindi. Just don't...
I mean, let Bindi, donate some money to us.
I feel bad. Mate, we're sitting in a dodgy little room talking to a camera and people are sending money. Stop sending us your money.
We're not asking anyone to donate, but, welcome if you guys are that
if people could see this dodgy little room, these guys don't know their ass from their elbow.
Hey, we have invested here, mate. And I need the money after getting pinged on the camera the other day. Another story for another time.
You're a danger to yourself and others on the roads,
apparently.
Mate.
Anyway, we digress. Christian Petrarca, number 8 against North Melbourne. He's going to kick some snags against them, so I think he could go pretty big.
When he plays a team that he can beat up, he loves like a 30-4.
So he's the kind of guy that I think when he goes up against an easy kill, he's going to go huge. Connor Rosie, look, I wanted to get him higher, but I couldn't get him higher than number 9. I wanted to get him higher up the list.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, what are you thinking,
Hey,
mate?
you and these
Get
players,
your head out of the
you're
gutter,
too close
mate.
with some of these players, getting them off, getting them high.
Yeah.
I don't know about you sometimes, Casey.
But he's number 9
Oh,
against
on
St
you.
Kilda tonight. And then number 10, Jordan Dawson. If Rory Laird is out, I think he's going to get a bit of a boost. He's not going to get tagged against Collingwood, but it is a tough matchup. So he rounds out the top 10.
As it stands, you're going Marshall into
English. I'm going the Rucks again.
Okay.
Yeah, so Ryan Marshall tonight.
I feel like I'm going to stick with English into Taranto, just so I'm not a copycat.
Okay, all right. I was originally that until this afternoon, and I saw Bailey Williams tonned up against them last week, and I said, that's enough. I'll get him in
you've
there.
made your captain choice based on something Bailey Williams done.
Exactly.
That's good, mate. Yeah, I hope that goes
All
well
the
for you.
research in the world, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, you'll go well, I reckon.
All right. It's just ticked over 5 o'clock, so...
It's team time. Let me get the big boys graphic off the screen, eh?
Yeah, let's have a look at these
I need to wear my glasses for
teams.
this. I can barely see the screen, eh?
It's 5 o'clock, so
I think
hopefully
we're
it's loaded up for us, but where are we? Sunday. So... It looks like our mate Alwyn Davey Jr. has been omitted, unfortunately, with Zach Merritt coming back into the side, Massimo D'Ambrosio coming back in, Tipper and Nick Hine.
The red dots just get worse.
Yeah. Also, Ajay Menzies is being managed for anyone who still has him.
I'd be interested, sorry, on the Alwyn Davey thing, so he's been dropped and I mentioned more red dots. I'd be interested to throw it out to people in the comments, Twitter, whatever. I've only played the 2 years. Is this year, is there a cash generation crisis, or is it always that like recency bias where people are talking about things that are happening now, or is this something that happens every year? Is this like, what's the go?
I think that there is more of a cash crisis this year because of the sub rule, and because players that are going well can suddenly get that stunt in their growth, like a Jinby or like a Mackenzie or something like that. He comes out, pops out at 20, and his cash just stops. Whereas he probably would have made another 50 to 60,000 had he not been the sub and just played an extra couple of games full time. So I do think there is. Look, there is always rookie crisis and red dot craziness going on, but it does feel extra prevalent this year.
Somebody just asked what my birthday wish is. My fantasy birthday wish. What kind of fantasy?
Oh, you sicko, mate.
Proper sicko. Vice captain goes 500.
You're not asking for much, are you? Jesus.
And then I double that, so it's 1,000.
1,000, yeah, okay.
And then I'm up top. And I changed my name back to the Ox Longs instead of the Ox Shorts. So it's just a pretty simple birthday wish. But
pretty simple. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I just spat over it.
Moving on to the next game, Richmond versus Gold Coast. Look, they've actually named Tuke Miller is out because of illness. So don't know what that's about.
Tuke Miller's out because of illness.
Yeah, that's what it says on the app here. That's really weird.
His leg looked pretty ill when he was hobbling off.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was ill because he was in my super coach team, and that's
love dropping the
shatters.
You just love dropping the super
mate,
coach.
I'm gonna be ranked higher in fantasy soon than I am in super coach. I am falling.
That's good, mate. You don't have a super coach podcast.
Yeah, Justin Clark has been omitted for those of you who had him, but otherwise not super relevant news in that one. And for the Adelaide Crows Collingwood game, no changes for Adelaide yet. We'll wait to see on Rory Laird. Scott Pendlebury has been out. Will Kelly,
Scott Pendlebury,
who was the sub, is out. Some people
missing an eye.
Yeah, he's literally blind in one eye. Yeah,
it was
nasty.
We thought that he might have had a cut above his eye, but does it look like
he was
bleeding
pissing
from his eye
out of his eye? Yeah, that was.
I got a thing about eyes
gross.
too. Like,
You don't. There's some parts you just don't. Some parts of your body you just don't want to bleed from. And eyes is one of them. There are others.
There are, aren't they?
But yeah, Will Kelly got subbed. He was the sub last week and he is out again. Some people thought that he might come back in, but
so
he is not.
Too much
so nothing too relevant except for that Alwyn Davey news and Jai Menzies are both dropped from Essendon. So Essendon not being friendly to our benches there.
When do you think we get definite confirmation on Laird?
So they said that they named something up on the captain's run, which I believe is tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
So they don't play until Sunday. So it's a nervous watch, but I feel like you don't jump at shadows at that. Because if he's out, it is only a week. And it's
especially if you've got LDU too, like you
prioritise them. Definitely.
You got to hold back.
But just keep your news out. Make sure you've got an emergency on your midfield line would be my number one tip there, just in case that it is super late and he is out there. But All right.
That's a tough one. Okay, we've got... Oh, wait a second.
Oh, a second.
This is firming as one of my favourites. Okay, ready, set, go. Spicy takes time.
Spicy takes.
Let's go.
All right. So I've just got the one spicy take this week, and it's maybe it's a hopeful take. I don't know. I feel like a lot of my spicy takes are just hopeful in nature.
This is a desperation take.
This is desperation.
It reeks of desperation.
But my spicy take this week is that Freo adjust. They take on the criticisms that's been thrown from you and I and fans around the country.
No doubt Longmire watches this.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's watching it right now. Longmire, if you're on it right now, shout out to you, mate. Hayden Young, tons up, and he takes the majority of the kick-ins, which results in a win against the Lions at the Gabba. And everyone's happy. That's my hot take this week. That's on the spice of hot to lemon herbs and spices. That's up there.
That's like black on the peri-peri scale. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's coming up. He's going to be close to us at the Gabba, isn't he? So that's in our proximity.
Our aura will just wear off on him, I reckon.
Well, yeah. That's
maybe we should go and just yell at him and just,
Nah, I'm busy.
Don't put myself through that anyway.
That's a hot take, man. If Hayden Young goes... What'd you say? 100 plus?
100. He tons up, but no, there's a few layers here. So he tons up.
There's a few layers.
He takes the majority of kick-ins, and they win. So it reinforces that that's what they should be doing. That's my hot take. I think they're going to see the light, and Luke Ryan's going to be out of the major kick-in duty.
Yeah. Look, if Hayden,
there's enough noise. I think there's enough noise that people.
We've got to turn our light on.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, shot's a lot better now.
Yeah, actually, we might just have to re-record this whole thing. That was brilliant.
Cut.
If Hayden
what's
Young
your hot
comes
takes?
up, I'll do the show naked or something. That's just, it's not going to happen. My hot take is Mitch holds Warple.
Which I am.
I have to. Done. Hot take complete.
Okay, keep going.
And once again, hates him come Monday when he goes sub 60. So expect that Mitch will just be...
Yeah, I'll be chopping.
Karate, chopping, Warple left, right and centre. Because Dave's just going to go in.
What do you reckon he scores?
Sub 60.
Sub 60?
Well, Will Day's coming in.
Yeah. Mackenzie's out. I'm clinging on to
mate, the king of wishful thinking.
Oh, I'm clinging on to something.
Well done.
Yeah, no, he's probably going to suck. Yeah,
that's maybe not the hottest take, but I'll go, Warple sub 60 and Mitch is just karate chopping him left, right and centre on Monday's show. And
what's your second one here? You got a second one here. You're going to buy... Is it not hot enough for the hot take?
Yeah, I'm reneging on it.
Oh,
is that the right word, renege? Actually, your word before was the right word, perennial.
Yeah.
In a way that continues for a long and apparently infinite time.
Yeah, I'm perennially just scared of Nick Dacos as a C because I'm worried he's going to be tagged any week.
You're a bit of a closet wordsmith. Well done.
I'm smarter than the average man over here, mate. All right, let's go on to some questions. We've got to answer these guys who are in the live show. And let's answer some questions here. Who have we got here?
What do we got? Bales is joining us again. Should we get to Bales first?
Yeah, he's a good friend of the show. What's he got to add? Mackenzie to
JJ. Leaves him with 129k in the bank and 5 rooks on the field. Or is he going Mackenzie to Chincotta with 425k in the bank and 6 rooks?
I would go, and this, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I would go Chincotta, bank that in, take the cash. I think Chincotta is a fairly important trade in this week because I'm just encouraged by the fact he's held his spot with Doherty and Sard in the side.
Yeah.
He's been scoring well in the VFL. I'm really concerned about cash generation. He could score similarly. Like he outscored JJ last week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was in a positive matchup without those two guys in there, but like I just feel that he is more important this week than a JJ. Both are going to be players against trade out again. You might as well take the extra cash, make more cash from a Chincotta, play the long run that way. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I know a lot can change in a week in fantasy, but sometimes you feel like, where's that next rookie going to come from?
I know, and I feel like sometimes you just got to grab the ones that are there.
Well, that's the thing is because, the whole upgrade thing is essentially predicated on having rookies to downgrade to. So if you don't take them when they're there, and even if it means pocketing some cash...
I know sometimes people get worried about holding a lot of cash and they feel like they're missing out on a lot of points, but and an argument is like, say you have chaos next week and you don't get to use that cash, but I would argue that like having a lot of extra cash in the bank is never a bad thing because it might help you fix up that chaos thing that there is next week.
Yeah,
like you might still be able to get an upgrade and sideways an injured person next week if that does come to fruition. Like,
if your trades are solid and you're happy with your trades, don't just do it for the sake of it.
Yeah, don't just downgrade someone and just pocket cash for the sake of it. But in a week this...
Go Oliver down to Chincotta, mate.
In a week like this, I think that's... Like, if JJ's the best you can get to, I don't know if it's worth it. I think I'd just take the cash, personally.
Yeah. Okay, let's... here we go. So, do I go LDU all the way to Chincotta and Libba to Rochelle? 1 million cash in the back.
1 million cash. Okay, this is a bit excessive. So
that's huge.
Libba is out for 1 week. He's suspended. I think if you've got Libba in your team, you're holding Libba. Okay. Like he's not injured. It's not uncertain. I think you're trading LDU. I would be trying to maybe fix up a rookie first. To a Chincotta and an LDU to one of those value options, whether that be a Day or a Butters or something like that. That's where I would be. No, you don't want $1 million sitting in your bank. I think that's a bit much.
Well, if you can't win at fantasy, you may as well win at having the most money in the bank.
Yeah, true.
I might start. That might be my strategy later in the year.
If we got some like appreciation on that money, maybe that's play, but that's not unfortunately.
That would be a crazy little feature.
Yeah, that'd be a little spicy little addition.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. We'll talk to Warnie about that.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Bont, Walsh, or Laird? Well, Laird, I think you can rule out. You're not trading in Laird this week with the injury cloud over here.
Yeah, even if he gets named, there's just like you're playing with fire a little bit, aren't you? There.
Yeah. So I think rule out Laird. The other two, I think it's your preference. I think I really like Sam Walsh.
Yeah.
Just as a player.
Libba got concussed as well.
Oh, sorry, not suspended, concussed. But he's out for a week, essentially, at the end of the day.
They should suspend players for getting concussed because it ruins our fantasy stuff.
I think, sorry, my apologies. He did get concussed, you're right. I just had in my head that he was about out a week. So
maybe you're concussed.
Maybe we've had too many of these beers. But, I still think you hold him, basically, is the moral of the story there.
Tough to concuss Libba, just quietly.
Yeah, he must have had a fair knock.
Old cement head. Actually, I think they call Callum Ward cement head, but he's...
Yeah.
Old Libba's probably got a tough head too.
He's suspended. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting the cement heads mixed up. I don't know. But what was I talking about? I can't remember now. But yeah, I just flip a coin between Walsh and Bonds. I personally think that Walsh will score better, but he is more expensive. I think you could honestly flip a coin there. I think he's higher on the captain's list this week by 1 spot, if that gives you any confidence. So.
We've got a bit of a rough question here. Grundy to Darcy or Wilmot to Chincotta?
Oh, this is tough. I think you've got to get rid of Grundy.
I feel, and my recommendation where rucks are concerned is just get English. Find a way to do it.
English is expensive now.
He's so expensive.
He's like if you... Yeah.
We've talked about times where we got stitched this year, but we were kissed that week when
Jared Witts. That was a blessing.
And that was like 30 seconds before the game started.
And we just jumped straight over to English, and it's been the greatest thing we've done this year.
I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Yeah. So he is priced over $1 million now. He's priced nearly at 120 average. And whilst I can see him doing 120 this year, I feel like you're almost at this point trying to go against English, and I think Sean Darcy is still... He's doing it, like he's averaging 100 plus.
He's probably the option if you're going to go against.
I think you go
Everyone
Sean Darcy,
Marshall.
but I think we've seen enough that Grundy is just... He's sub 80 most weeks in a Gorn, so you're giving up 20, 30, 40 points on the other rucks. So I think you fix that up before anything else.
Bales reckons he was watching Channel 10 News and Brodie Smith said that Laird will play, not a calf injury, just tightness.
I did see a quote to say that he'll push through, but...
Bales knows his crows, so...
Yeah, maybe that's optimistic Bales, though. I don't know. He does love his boy Laird.
Mate, he'd be inconsolable if Laird didn't play as well. Because he has Took, I think, as well.
If you caught the Took Laird combo, that's just...
Trouble. Took an LDU to Walsh and Sicily or to Oliver and Butters. Of those two options, I'd go... Well,
Oliver and Butters.
You go Oliver and Butters?
Yeah. I think Oliver's clearly the number one mid.
What about Walsh and Butters? What if you combo those?
Yeah.
Save a bit of coin.
Yeah, I'd probably save coin if you could.
Yeah.
I don't think that Oliver is the kind of guy we want to get into our side right now. Like, I think, like we said before, if you can save the money, use it more next week, because it's not going to hurt you this week. Obviously, you'll cop a points loss this week, but it's the next week's upgrades and the options in terms of rookie downgrading that it will hurt you then. So I think, I reckon, I reckon you save cash if you can. But if you would set on those two, I'd go Oliver and Butters of the two options.
I'm actually going to need to start wearing glasses. Hey, I'm going to be leaning
I have
up,
moved on the lights for you today. It's a little bit different.
The table. You only turn brightness up or something. Thoughts on Noah Anderson? Actually, I sent you a screenshot last night that you didn't reply to. Thanks for that. Which had no answer.
It's a moot point now that we've got LDU's
out. Yeah,
but I like him. I was keen on him. Look, I think he gets a bump with Took out of the team. He's 876,000, so he's priced at 102. So could he go 110 while Took is out? Potentially.
Well, he's shown an enormous ceiling.
He's got that round 13 buy, and something tells me should we be valuing that round 13 buy just a little bit more? Is that worth an extra?
It's a little bit of the reason people might have traded in Took.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Look, I think he's an option. I think he's definitely an option.
Yeah.
I just don't, if I'm projecting the average and I'm comparing him to people around his price, so it's only an extra 20K to get to a Bont.
Yeah.
It's only a little bit more to get to a Kelly and things like that. I think those guys outscore him.
Yeah.
But if your rationale was the buy structure, I think that's a valid rationale. So there is potential that he goes big, especially with Took out. Good matchup this week against the Tigers as well.
Definitely. Someone said English Marshall and Samson Ryan locked in for the year.
Samson Ryan?
Yeah, the third of those guys is the best in your team.
Let's
go.
Big
Samson. Mate, he was clunking a few last week, eh?
Yeah, well, at least he's playing. He could generate us some cash, so...
Definitely.
Let's go maybe a few more.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Simkin?
He's in my targets. I want to wait a week. His break-even is quite high, but I think he's definitely an option for next week.
Yeah. How do you think that, LDU, we're maybe assuming that's a 1 week, does that influence when he comes back?
It does. They're going up against Melbourne, and I think they're going to kill them. So I'm hesitant to...
Kill them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bloodbath. Yeah. But next week they go up against St Kilda. So that's a positive matchup. So I'd be wanting to give him a week. His break-even is 127, so he's coming down in cash. And then he'll be priced around the mid-700s. So he definitely is a target for me next week who's going to be good value for us. But I just want to watch him.
All right, we go one more, eh?
Yeah, let's have another one. What do we got? Thoughts on... we haven't talked about Fiorini, actually, just while you're finding a target, a question here. I want to touch on Fiorini because I know we talked about him in the other podcast. I think... I've been listening to a few podcasts and thinking about it myself as well.
Dossie's locked in, did you see?
Yeah. Oh, did you hear the song?
I hadn't seen it before, and I did. I watched it.
Yeah, it's a cracker.
I watched it at work.
I didn't hear it before I listened to the podcast.
I was at my desk at work, and I'd turn the sound right down, looking around. I don't want anyone to see me watching these weird videos from Dossie.
So good. But I think I agree with a lot of the other takes out there that you wait a week on him. He's not going to get away from you. And the more information you collect, because you go early on a player like that, that has the potential for it to completely wreck your season. So the upside for going early isn't worth the risk, in my opinion.
It's never good to go early. That's what I've found.
Well. Brooke told me the same thing.
What?
Holy
this guy's lost it. We'll gloss over that. Let's go right back to the top of the comments. We'll go to the first comment that was asked there. It says, I cannot decide between unloading Sheasel and McKenzie for Chincotta and Walsh, or the double downgrade of Stocker and McKenzie for Seamus and the Bread.
I think we hold Sheasel as well.
Yeah, I know we were...
we were posing the question. We weren't necessarily saying we do it.
We weren't. It was very clickbait. It was very clickbaity of us, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. But you got to do that sometimes. You got to do that sometimes.
I saw that. I was like, Mitch is straight on the clickbait there. But it was just it was one of those things. It's like, hey, if you do it and it comes off, then it's like, look, props to you.
There is a scenario where it is the right play. Like, if we knew that over the next 4 weeks he was playing forward, then you would do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I still think that because he started the game in defence with those two, with Hall and Zeeble there,
yeah,
and he got tagged, and that caused him to move forward, I think that the intent is still to play him in defence when there's a decent matchup there. So I think you hold him, even with that 40 in his averages. He's averaging over 100. That's a top 6 defender. That's a top 6 forward. So you wouldn't be trading those other guys there. Yeah. Look, there is more risk because he's a young player, and he has potential to be managed. But I think we hold him for now. So of all the weeks, I think this week, if you can't get a 1 up, 1 down to one of those value guys, then I think a double downgrade is okay. Bank the cash. I know I'm going to be holding over $370,000 going into next week. So
cashed up, man.
Cashed up. Hopefully that will bridge the gap and we get some of those bloody midfielders who I've been neglecting.
You're going to have a bit of cash to get up to it looks like. So should we let these people go and play with their fantasy teams?
Yes, let's do it. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you are enjoying the content, make sure you guys are subscribed. Give this video a big thumbs up. And we will catch you guys next time. Hope your captains go good.
Thank you for all the questions as well, guys. I know we didn't get a chance to go even close to answering all of them, but we really appreciate you putting them in there. And hopefully sort of other people in the comments are able to
help each other out. Yeah. And give us a tweet on Twitter as well, and we can maybe get through a few more as well. But until next time, guys, we'll catch you later. Bye.